Hi, I'm Joy Barreiro and my husband Jeff, and we're entrepreneurs. We like to plan, and we had been business partners even before we got married. And early on in our married life, when we had children, we planned and attended courses on how to become better parents. Of course, we plan to live our lives really totally dedicated to Jesus. We plan to share the gospel of Jesus with joy to our children, to our family, and to our friends. And we plan to do so with intentionality, maybe perhaps in a very sanitized manner, trying to build our skills so that we can carry out that role as ideally as we had envisioned it to be, to the best of our capacity.
That's right. We took our vocation to marriage and to raising a family seriously. Seriously, meaning we each made individual decisions to do all we can so that our marriage would be a solid one and so that we will be good parents. Of course, making a decision like this does not automatically translate to achieving our goals. In the end, it is always daily effort, a daily personal struggle, and hopefully, daily conversion.
And planning usually follows an important decision. So we dove into parenting books, we attended many talks and seminars and courses. And after all, we desired certain results. Like we wanted our children to be very well behaved and smart and respectful young adults, etc. If we wanted this, then we should act on it, right? We were committed to put ourselves into this serious endeavor.
And as with any serious endeavor, we begin with a plan. I think a lot of men are like this, especially those with corporate or business background. We have to have a plan. Parenting, there's a way to go about this, right? And having a plan, of course, it helps. In fact, it is needed. It is part of deliberate parenting. And it makes absolute sense to approach parenting with a sense of having deliberate outcomes. But then, outcomes, this is where things can be unpredictable. We all know that parenting is not an exact science. It is not math where you put one and one together and you get two. But at least the hope is that by being there, from their early years as infants and guiding each one through the various stages of their lives, we would have these nice clones of ourselves, hopefully better versions of ourselves. But then life happens, life unfolds, and we see our kids grow not just physically, but they also begin forming their own ideas, their own identity.
And despite our promptings and what we thought was sound reasoning, we could not seem to convince them to follow the path to Jesus based on what we showed them. After having gone through various disagreements and heartaches, we slowly realized that joyfully proclaiming Jesus means loving His plans even if they are very different from ours. And that was initially not very easy to accept. I felt personally that the world that I had ideally built or what we had planned was crumbling. But I also realized that the freedom He gave me, that the freedom He gave my husband, is also the same freedom He gave my children. And I would need to really fully love my children if they decide to use that freedom differently. The difference was very unsettling for me because it was unfamiliar territory, but it also meant that I had to embrace it with complete abandonment to His holy will. And it was so difficult because, as I said earlier, we like to plan. how can you joyfully love and proclaim Jesus if things don't fall in the right place?
This was actually key learning for us as parents. Despite all good intentions, despite great effort, and we will always second guess ourselves and ask if we have done enough, the outcome really is not in our hands. And we try to rest in trusting that we leave them, our children, in bigger, gentler, more loving hands. These are the hands of Jesus. Imperfect beings as we are, being fashioned by our Lord into the shape and form He wants to make of us. We are really clay. We are raw material. Not just us, but each of our children too. And we leave them, we should leave them to experience the world as they would. For example, how will they react to tough situations? How will they respond if their faith, the faith they grew up with, taught by us, their parents, and people close to them, how will they react if this faith is challenged? For example, will they earnestly seek truth? Will they be firm and strong and committed? Or will they be swayed by the easy or by what's in fashion? Now, this deviation from what we have taught or what we want them to espouse or believe in, it can take many forms. In the way they talk or respond to our questions, in their demeanor, in the time they spend with us, their family, the material they read, it can take many forms.
And it has left us experiencing different emotions. I know it says that you're not supposed to worry, but I worry. I think that's part and parcel of being a parent, especially being a mom. We worry, we have regrets. I have personal regrets that I think about, what if I had done this instead? What if I had sent my child to a different school instead? All of those things. We've experienced sadness. We've experienced a lot of heartaches and disappointments. But in the process, we've also experienced so much hope. I encountered this anecdote where a man went to a rabbi and asked, "My child is estranged from God. What shall I do?" And the rabbi said simply, "Love that child more." Joyfully proclaiming the gospel for me as a parent means not speaking about anything without first helping that child of mine carry his or her cross, and crying with the child and taking on her pain or taking on his pain, and living compassionately without a peep from my mouth. It means that my child has to feel that his or her happiness is more important than whatever it is I had planned. And we are learning now, as we are in the process of repairing many, many things in our lives, we are also slowly discovering that there is actually joy in sharing various difficulties. We have seen the cross, and it is beautiful. There is joy in spite of our differences in outlook with our children. And you learn how to love it because it has expanded my once very narrow mind. And with it also, having experienced the pain with them, Jesus has also opened our hearts more. I trust and pray that it is His will that each of us will find Him, and that He, our Lord, will make His heart the final resting place for all of us.